my name is Martha Bashir, and I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about how learning disabilities are different than learning styles. Why are there so many learning disabilities today? And why are they centered around the not being able to read at grade level? That skill seems to mark a disability in learning. My daughter has special needs. And did you see how quickly I changed the word to special needs? Because she's my daughter and she has special needs. I believe every student who can't read has special needs, or those who struggle to read or can't read at grade level, they have special needs. Because what happens if they can't learn to read? What is the alternative? You know what happens is they get by at their low reading level. Now, I teach English as a second language, and I taught phrasal verbs. In fact, I taught the phrasal verb get by this week. Listen to the definition of get by. To be able to live or deal with a situation with difficulty because you don't have enough of what you need. If you don't learn how to read, you actually learn something worse. You learn helplessness. And the student learns that they aren't independent readers. What if learning how to read were not the fault of the teacher or not the fault of the parent? What if it was the fault of the curriculum? I listened to the Emily Hansford podcast, Sold a Story, and she introduced a person by the name of Lucy Calkins. Ms. Calkins is the architect of the Balanced Literacy Program for teaching reading, which is neither balanced nor literacy because she introduces leveled books, which are not living books. How did she become the reading expert and even started her own teacher college that inspired a whole generation of teachers? You see, she started out as a young, inspiring person and went to I don't know if she was inspired to be a teacher, but she went to a Montessori school, and she was enchanted by the children in the kindergarten class who were cozily curled up on nice curtain cushions in a corner reading a book. That is her inspiration for teaching reading. Put enough books in the classroom and the children will learn through absorption. I was a first grader at a time in the 70s when they were teaching sight words. And I remember learning the and went and when. And I remember learning the tiger books and then the lion book. And you know what? My first grade teacher had a reading contest. And I wanted to win. So I went home and my mother read to us all the time. I picked up all my children's books and I looked at them that night and put them in my bag. And I went and told my teacher, here's all the books I read. And she said, now, Martha, did you read all those? Well, not wanting to lie, I seriously said, in my mind, I looked at every picture and I looked at every word. And I know what this book says because I have it memorized. Because my mom read them to me all the time. Kids memorize their favorite stories. So I answered yes, thinking I really had been reading. But that is not reading. And do you know that even today, after all the science of learning knowledge has come out, Lucy Calkins denies the effectiveness of phonics. She still thinks, at best, phonics is a panacea. What if phonics was the solution for teaching reading to all students? How do students learn to read? And why is it that so many students have to go to reading tutors to learn how to read? The curriculum has no place to teach reading, really. So they have to offer remedial courses to students who can't read from the original teacher lesson. Remedial means to give the remedy or the cure. Why don't we put the remedy into the curriculum in the first place? And instead of reading recovery, recovery means to return to the normal state of health, it is normal for students to read. Why don't we put the normal method of teaching reading into the curriculum? Well, what is the normal way to teach reading? How do you teach reading? You have to get down to its very smallest part. Is reading enjoying books or reading books? Is reading words or reading syllables? Or even smaller portions of reading sounds? You see, God expected us to be readers. He wrote a whole book for us to read. And in John chapter 1, verse 1, he said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." You see, I believe that you have to start by reading words, so you have to know what are the words made of. How do you link the letters to the sounds they make? That's the difficult thing. When a child is taught to read, they need to link how their spoken language and their written language are the same. And how can you read what is on the paper? I have 33 years of teaching experience. I started out teaching kindergarten, first, second, and third grade in a small Christian school. So my job was to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. After I married, my husband and I now had 5 children, and I homeschooled them all. I have 4 boys and my special needs daughter. And then 10 years ago in 2015, I started teaching online, teaching English as a foreign language. Now, who were my students? My students had parents who wanted their child to have a phonics education so they could learn how to read. And my adults asked for my phonics program so they could learn how to pronounce the words correctly. You see, I advertised myself as a phonics teacher, and I've taught over 14,000 sessions on italki.com. Now, what I prepared for my online students is so cool. This is going to revolutionize the way you look at teaching reading and help you understand English better than you have before. I teach comprehensive phonics. Comprehensive phonics literally means everything, because there's a lot of good phonics programs out there. So why aren't they teaching the kids to read? It's because there's not every piece in every program that can teach the English language in its entirety, because English has 3 different parts. First of all, the spoken language, English, has 45 different sounds. So when it's translated into the written language, these sounds are spelled in 92 different ways. And the sheer vowel volume of this knowledge sometimes discourages kids because they learn one thing and then another thing, and then they're like, is it ever going to end? Then there are 25 rules that govern how we use this knowledge. And a lot of kids are like, you learn the rule and then there's an exception. And so it gets discouraging at the best and confusing at the worst. And my program teaches these rules and concepts on 14 different charts. And I'm going to teach one of the charts today. Because what is English and how do you teach reading? You have to start with the basics. English has 26 single letter phonograms, and we know that as the alphabet, A to Z, and 66 multi-letter phonograms. And a multi-letter phonogram is 2 letters together, 2 or more letters together that say a single sound in the word. So how do you know how to read these? You have to start with understanding what a phonogram is. Now, you've probably heard of the word grapheme and phoneme. Those 2 words are put together in the word phonogram. Phono means sound, and gram means to write. So a phonogram is the way you spell the sounds. They're written in this way. Now, I teach the 26 single letter phonograms first, and they can say 1, 2, or 4 sounds. And after I teach the 26 single letter phonograms, I begin teaching the 66 multi-letter phonograms, and they say 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6 sounds. So by the time the children get to the multi-letter phonograms, they already understand how phonograms work and are able to read the single letter phonograms. You see, reading is a learned skill that builds your brain and helps you one step at a time as you use it. Remember when you watched your child learning to walk? They would stand up to the sofa all by themselves. But was that really walking? No, pretty soon you would grab them by the hand and help them walk across the floor so they could continue to build the strength in their legs and understand putting one foot in the front of the other. And it wasn't long before they were walking across the floor. And then it wasn't long until you were chasing them because they had learned to run. They had mastered walking. And that's what you need to do in English. They need to master the phonograms, and I teach them in a multi-sensory way simultaneously. Let me illustrate this. Now, this is where the learning styles come in, and this is why it works. You can teach anybody how to read using this, and you will avoid disabilities because you have to build the pathways into the brain. And the first pathway is the visual, but it's taught simultaneously. Look at this. And I introduced this as a phonogram. This is a short phonogram, and this is how you see it in a book. You need to show them the phonogram as it would look in a book. We write it using our handwriting skills, but when you read it, you're going to read it from the book, and it will look like this. And you can tell when people have not explicitly conveyed that knowledge because the students will write like this, which is actually pretty clever if you think about it. But it's not teaching them how to read, it's teaching them how to recognize a letter and copy it down. See, learners can learn what they see. And you notice the auditory is there faintly because you teach all these simultaneously. This is an a, ah. You know the letter names, but we're going to learn how to read. So we have to learn the letter sounds. And this one has 4 sounds. A, ah. Now, can you count the sounds and say them? A, ah. And then that's the auditory learning style. You link the sounds the phonogram makes to the way it is spelled. Learners can learn what they hear. And see, you're linking that to the way they learn to speak. They learn to speak by hearing. They're going to learn to read by hearing, seeing, and the oral language skill because you need to repeat the sounds the phonogram makes. Reinforce the explicit knowledge taught. Learners can learn what they can say aloud. A, ah. Now you say it. A, ah. You say this simultaneously. They're looking, they're seeing, they're hearing, they're saying. And then the last part is the physical action. You need to link writing to reading. Write the phonogram while saying the sounds the phonogram makes. Now read the phonogram. Learners learn what they can read and write. Now I teach the handwriting in the next video so you can see how I teach all 26 letters of the alphabet. And guess what? If you know all 26 letters of the alphabet, those are the 26 phonograms. And you don't need to teach handwriting for the multi-letter phonograms. So you link, this is an a, that's a clock letter. And the clock letter, this is a short clock letter. They already know the 6 strokes needed to write the 26 letters of the alphabet, and you'll learn that in the next class. So they write it, say it, read it. And the final piece of the puzzle is I ask them to teach me. And then I pick a student and they teach it to me. I've told them to make 10 a-a-ah-uhs. And then I want you to put a star above your neatest one. You see, they're learning neat handwriting, where they're learning the phonograms, which are the building blocks of reading. Let us review. There are 4 pathways into the brain. The visual, you can see the phonogram. The auditory, you can hear the phonogram sounds. The oral, you say the phonogram. And the kinesthetic, that's the physical writing of the phonogram. And then don't forget to read what you've written. Read what is written. They wrote the phonogram sounds, saying all 4 sounds. Now read it, saying all 4 sounds. Don't forget to write and read. You are beginning to teach them how to read by teaching them how to write. Writing is the missing link in learning how to read successfully. Look, the brain has muscles now. Don't forget to write. Remember, skills are needed to read, so drill the skills. Now, the skills I've taught you are teach all the phonograms. Then give daily written phonogram drills. If they make a mistake, it's okay. Erase it, write it again. Give daily written spelling quizzes. Once they learn how to write, you're going to teach them how to write words. Then you're going to give them spelling quizzes so that every day they are able to repeat the ones they have learned by writing them correctly. Now, the first spelling words listed are in the charts. Remember, there's 14 charts, and I'm going to teach you the first chart today. That's the first things they read. Can they read the charts? And there are rules taught in the charts. Do they know the rules? Review the rules that are taught on the charts. These are the skills to read. But that's not the end. You see, it's not enough to know what the pieces are. Now you have to learn to use the skills to read. Practice what you know. So use the skills to read. First, analyze the words. There are no sight words in this program. If I were to tell you to write busy, I want you to think to spell busy. How many syllables? Busy. Let's write the first syllable. Busy. B. I. U says I. Z. E. The S says its second sound. Z. And the Y says its fourth sound. Y. I. E. Now you write it. B. I. Z. E. We think to spell, then we write it. Now we analyze it. How do we mark this word? Well, the U says I. That is an exception in the English language. The U says U, U, It does not say I regularly. So to write the word busy, we're going to put a little X above the U because it says I. Then the S says its second sound, so put a 2 above it. The Y says Y, I, E. That's the fourth sound. Put a 4 above it. Now read the word. And I've had so much fun teaching busy to my students. That is a fun word to teach. So remember, when you're analyzing your words and writing words and reading original sentences, you say, how do you spell? Sound it out. How do you read? Sound it out. Both skills are the same when you're reading or writing. So when you practice reading aloud, you're listening to them sound it out. When they're practicing writing, you're listening to them sound it out. Sounding out the words allows you to be analytical and figure out what you're reading. Because it's a lot like riding a bicycle. When you know the phonograms, you are moving. But you have training wheels on. And you can move because you know how to say the sounds. You can write, you can read. But that's not it. You're not alone. you have to have somebody helping you, because when the training wheels come off, you've got to balance. You've got to know how to stop and how to get from the ground to the pedal to get to the moving and then to stop and get off. And that's where parents come in and teach the child, and that's how they learn to ride the bicycle. And soon the training wheels are off and you're riding. And that's a lot like reading. So we've got to get the gears turning. We have drilled some skills, and now the chart's going to help us use the skills. And the first thing you teach once they already know the phonograms is to separate them into consonants and vowels. There are two kinds of single letter phonograms, and the consonants have one or two sounds. So you separate all the phonograms that have one or two sounds, and the vowels have four sounds. And so you separate them into the pile that has four sounds. So they're getting the idea that a consonant and a vowel are different based on the number of sounds, because they know single letter phonograms can say one, two, or four sounds. So you start by teaching them there's two kinds of letters, consonants and vowels. If it's not a consonant, it's a vowel. If it's not a vowel, it's a consonant. And there are 5 vowels in the English language: A, E, I, O, and U. And if it's not a vowel, it's a consonant. So based on the fact that we know there's 26 letters, that means there's 21 consonants. And you can teach math at this time. And then you introduce your consonant vowel chart. This is the blank chart because you're going to dictate the consonants first. You're going to dictate the consonants that have one sound, the consonants that have two sounds, and you're going to help them read the rules for the C and G and then write the vowels. So let's start with what are the 14 consonants that have one sound. And now you're going to read them. Let's read B. Now when you teach the B, I want you to say B. Your mouth is closed, and I want you to use your finger to draw a line over your mouth. B. Because the B starts with a stick and then a curve. This is a tall letter, so tall stroke down up to the midline and curve around. B. B. And then there is D. Now when you say D, I want you to draw a line around your mouth. You're making a circle because this is a clock letter. You make the clock stroke first. It's a short clock letter and then a tall part. So you make the clock letter up and down. That's how you teach them so they know B and D. And I had a little girl that drew the B and D. So every time I gave a phonogram drill, she would look at her card and she said, "Am I cheating?" I said, "No. You understand these are very similar. And when I give the phonogram drill, you have to decide, is it a B or D? And if it helps you to look, go right ahead and then write the word." So B, D, F, H, J, K, L, P, T, V, Z. Did you hear the voiced and unvoiced sounds as you said that? Now these are the consonants that have two sounds. Say them. Write them. K, S, G, J, K, K, R, S, Z, X, Z. And they can read them and write them because you've taught them. Now wait a minute, if you're doing the math, 14 plus 6 is only 20. The Y is special. Do you know why? It's special because it's both a vowel and a consonant. So we're going to stick that Y, I, E on the consonant list because it is a consonant. The first sound, Y, is the consonant sound. Now, if you're with me so far, and if you're learning to read, I'm pretty sure you can read, I can read. You have to start with understanding that this program is different from any other program taught. You can read through this program. And have you ever played basketball and made a basket and you're like, yes, remember that thrill? You see, amateurs practice until they get it right. But there's a difference between amateurs and professionals. Professionals practice till they can't get it wrong. And how many games do they sink those 3 pointers? Because those professionals have practiced till they can't get it wrong. And that's what we're doing when we're learning reading. You're teaching them to write the phonograms. You're teaching them to write the vowel consonant chart. And if they make a mistake, you get it right by erasing it and correcting it. You have to get it right. And then you don't stop until you can write it without getting wrong. You can't get it wrong. You have to write the vowel consonant chart without getting it wrong. And that is doable when you practice this way. So let's review the k. This is a clock letter. It says k, s, and it starts at the 1 o'clock, up and over to the midline, around to the up, touch the midline, over to the 11, down to the 7, and stop at the 5. You're making that clock stroke, and that's how I teach it. It says k, s. Now you say it. And that's all the student needs to know. But you as the teacher can look at the back of the card and can see cat, city. And a lot of times with my English students learning English as a foreign language, I show them the words in the pictures. Gorilla, giraffe. Q is always followed by U in the English language. Oh, Miss Martha, this one has 2 letters. Yes, this is a 2-letter, single-letter phonogram because Q always needs a friend. He needs you. So that's how you introduce it. That's the rule. And it says queen. Notice that U says the W sound. So it's not a vowel in this word. It is a consonant saying the consonant sound. Unique. K is advanced, but while you're teaching them, teach the advanced, because a child that can read or k can read lots of words, and they don't get stopped. If they pronounce the words wrong, they can try again till the word makes sense. Rat, fire. Snake, is, has, does, was. You can hear the z at the end of the verbs. Fox, xylophone. X is a consonant blend. It's used at the end or in the middle of the word, like exam or exit. And z is when the X says z, it's at the beginning of the word. And we got to the Y. Y, I, E. Notice Y is the consonant sound. I, E are the vowel sounds. Now, what are the rules? C says S before E, I, or Y. S, S, S. And that's what they know. C, E says S. C, I says S. C, Y says S. Let's read the words. Center, city, bicycle. Notice the first C in bicycle says S because C says before E, I, or Y. The second C says K because it's not followed by E, I, or Y. There are 26 letters in the phonogram. So 3 out of 26 is about 11%. So only 11% of the time will the C say S. So 89% of the time it will say K. This is the rule for when it says its second sound. And the letter G is similar to the letter C rule. G may say J before E, I, or Y. Angel, J. Giant, J. Gym, J. The G, E, G, I, G, Y. Now, the rule says may. G may say J before EI or Y because it doesn't have to. There are words like get, girl, and give. Now, as I go to the vowel portion of the consonant vowel chart, I'm going to be introducing the concept of the syllable. We all know when we read words, we break them down into the syllables. The syllable is the smallest unit of a word. Every syllable needs a vowel. The mouth opens with each syllable. So while I'm going to look at these words and introduce them as a one-syllable word or a two-syllable word, let's just look at the word syllable. How many syllables in the word syllable? Let's say it as we clap it. Syllable. You clapped 3 vowel sounds. And then let's fill your mouth open with each syllable. Put your hand under your chin, either this way or that way. Syllable. Your mouth opens and closes. And then this is the kinesthetic movement that helps the student learn. Either clap or tap each syllable. Syllable. So let's go on to our consonant vowel chart. Vowels are the hinges of the mouth. Every syllable needs a vowel. So let's look at our vowels. Now, you can either have a blank chart or you can have the vowels already written in. This is a way to give directions. There's a little square at the left of the chart. So go to the second square and write a, I, E, I, E, y, I, E, o, u, u, and that's how they need to know to write. So this is how you analyze from the beginning. You are going to say the word, dictate it, and they will write it. Now there's 4 columns. We have the short sound column, the long sound column, the third sound column, and the fourth sound column. So remember, there's 4 sounds. So we're going to start with a short sound, a, like in bat, b, at, and you can introduce the bat you use to play baseball or the bat that is the only flying mammal. B, at. Now let's think to spell it and look at the chart. Now you already have the filled out chart so they can look up and find the consonants. B and T. And which vowel do we use? The a. So that's how they can be directed and think, and then you write b, at, bat. Now use it in a sentence. And that's where you can go further and say, you know, this word actually has 2 meanings. So you can teach a lot through this chart. Now, the long sound, baby. How many syllables in the word baby? 2. Let's think to spell the first syllable. B, a. Which consonant? B. Point to it. Which vowel? A. Yes, and write it. B, a. Second syllable? B. Point to it. E. The Y says E. See, I explicitly tell them if there's a sound that might be confusing. B, A, B, E. Now, read the word, baby. Now, you'll notice I left a space between, and I forgot to say that. Now, let's leave a space. We're going to write the second syllable because you want to see the syllable breaks on charts only. When you give them the spelling test for these words, they can write them together. You teach spacing on this chart. You teach words on the spelling test. And how do we mark this? Let's draw a line above the A. Why? Because vowels A, E, O, and U say their name. Their long vowel sound. A says A at the end of a syllable. A says A at the end of a syllable. That's the short version of that rule. Now the third sound, a, like in ball. B, which consonants do we use? Which vowel do we use? Let's sound it out. B, and we often double F, L, and S after a single vowel at the end of a one-syllable word. And then the last sound, or the last word, we're going to illustrate a. Let's say the word idea. How many syllables in the word idea? 3. So you know right away how many vowels are you going to have in this word? 3. So what are they? I, yes. E, yes. And the a says the sound. Now what's the consonant in idea? The d. Now let's think to spell a syllable at a time. I. Second syllable, d, e. Write it. Third syllable, write it. Now, how do we mark it? Put a 4 above the a. Why? Because it's saying its fourth sound. And with ball, how do we mark it? Put a 3 above the a. Why? Because it's saying its third sound. So you physically mark the sounds that are not the short sound or the long sound. You draw a line above the long sounds, but you don't draw a line. You mark the third or fourth sounds. And you obviously can draw a line above the Y because it's saying the E sound, or you can put a 4 above it. But I didn't mark it because I'm not teaching the letter Y in the word baby. I'm teaching the letter A. And you continue through the vowel consonant chart until you've filled it up, and then you have a completed chart that now becomes a chart the students can read, and then you introduce games and you practice spelling drills and you practice all kinds of things because they know all these rules that I've been teaching you. And the A says at the end of the word. That's a rule. Now, when you notice the E has only 2 sounds, what about elephant? When you teach all the sounds, it's exciting that the E only has 2 sounds, E, but all vowels can say the short sound. It did in idea. That's the schwa sound. About, elephant, love. So when I introduce the schwa sound, I say all vowels can say the short sound. Okay, you've come to the end of the video. Thank you for joining me. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. I'm here to help, and I welcome your comments so that I can learn how I can specifically help you in future videos. And for those of you who are a little bit fearful and nervous and just don't think you can do it, I have a special message for all of you who are learning to read and are feeling a bit of anxiety right now. You see, God gave us 2 Timothy 1:7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear. He replaced fear with 3 things, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. See you in the next video. Click the link below to get a free lesson guide with all the materials I used in this video. Start your journey into teaching reading or learning how to read today.